Hi, and thank you for listening. This is Sherry Andrea, and I'm so happy that you could take the time and listen today. I really appreciate you. If you're looking for me, you can find me at sherryspeaks.com. At my website, you'll find lots of things on metaphysics, Reiki, law of attraction, spirituality, a lot of different things. Of course, you can go there for Reiki attunements. There are many Reiki attunements to choose from now. I probably have somewhere between 50 to 60 different types of attunements to choose from. Also, you can always go there to download manuals. The downloads of the manuals are free. What else is free is I do have the Intro to Reiki, like the guide that if you're just getting started, that you can download for free, as well as the book that I wrote to kind of go with everything, which is the Introduction to Reiki book, is there also. Download for free. And of course, beautiful certificates. So if you need a certificate for whatever healing modality you're doing, or if you never got one, you can get a custom made certificate, only $1.25 each. Okay, so let's get on to it. Okay, so today what we're going to be discussing is when the higher self speaks. And I figured that what I would do is I would give some examples. Now, first of all, let me just start off by giving you a little introduction. What is the higher self? In a nutshell, you could think of the higher self as your true self. You're here incarnate in a body, but let's just say if you weren't the body, if you didn't have the body, or if you were out of body, what would you be? That would be your higher self, your true self. Your higher self is you. It's not, your higher self isn't like a spirit guide or anything. No, it is you. Your higher self is, for those of you who have either a Catholic or a Christian background, the higher self is, what Jesus was referring to when he said to go to the Father, you must go through me. He was referring to and speaking of the higher self. When he knew that he was going to be dying, and he tried to tell the apostles and the disciples that, wouldn't it be like better if instead of only being able to be with be in one place at one time, saying, here incarnate in the body, I can only be in one place at one time. So I can only help in that limited way. When I'm here incarnate on earth, wouldn't it be better if I could be with everyone all the time? And what he was speaking of was the higher self. That's also, what in the Bible, when it comes to when people are saying, the second coming, when is Jesus coming back? Okay, look, that's happened, been there and done. For those people who are still waiting for Jesus to come back, isn't it funny that sometimes the things that you're looking for, you already have? What that refers to is your own higher self. The higher self is also sometimes, when you read certain books, is also referred to as the higher Christ self. For example, if you read any of Elizabeth Clare Prophet books, any of the books by the prophets, the husband and wife, and then they co-wrote some books, such as The Human Aura. She also wrote one, Alchemy by Saint Germain, Alchemy for Self-Transformation. Lost Teachings of Jesus, she did. Actually, I have one of, I think there was 2 or 3 of those books. I actually have one. Actually, it was really, really good. So many books. And then of course, she's written books on, The Higher Self. I think she wrote a couple of those. She wrote this really great book for those of you who are healers or just getting into Reiki. Hilarion, Saint Hilarion the Healer. That was an awesome book. She's written a lot of books about Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene. I mean, and it was actually my higher self that guided me to her books. So the reason why I'm bringing her up in her books is because one of my favorite books of hers, and the book that I credit to me being guided to, that had everything in it that I needed to completely merge with my higher self. And also the book that I feel like would, if you're looking to achieve enlightenment, the book that has everything that would take you there is the book that she wrote called The Human Aura. Now, the reason why I bring it up is because in The Human Aura, as well as there's a couple other books I think I had it in, but The Human Aura, there is this picture, this diagram, which is called the Chart of the Divine Self. If you just Google that, or go to tsl.org, the Summit Lighthouse, which is the publisher of the books, their website, you can see a picture of it as well. The Chart of the Divine Self. It shows the Chart of the Divine Self, which is, it shows the lesser self, which is incarnate in body. And above it is the higher self. And above that is the I Am Presence. The Chart of the Divine Self is something that in the process of merging with my higher self that I used to meditate on, meaning thinking about it, visualizing it, I would meditate. So that kind of helps you get an idea of, because many people do ask me that question. Well, not just what is the higher self, but where is the higher self? And I think that if you have a good grasp of what is your higher self, where's your higher self, I think it's a little bit better when it comes to working on that connection with your higher self and working on fully merging with your higher self. If you have a better grasp of what and where. So, to keep moving forward, and forgive me if every now and then I pause because there are many things that I don't want to leave out. Okay, so this discussion is mainly about when your higher self is telling you things, because I think one of the things that I think it's hard for people to understand, it's hard to communicate to you, is how this manifests. When the higher self is telling you things, communicating, answering questions for you, how does that manifest? Many times your higher self is talking to you and you miss it, you're unaware that it's a higher self. I can give you lots of examples where I can say, hey, that's the higher self. Okay, for one, is for those of you, if you ever do a little dialogue in your head, a little talking to yourself in your head, most people always think that they're doing both sides of the conversation. Ask yourself a question in your head and you really think you're the one that's doing the back and forth, that's your form of thinking something out. But really the reality is, if you start really paying attention, you're only doing one side of the conversation. Your higher self is doing the other side of the conversation. But you may think that you're doing both sides of the conversation and that it's coming from your own mind. Your own mind is making up that other side. But in reality, it's your higher self. Once you realize that, then you can stop doing that conversation with yourself as though it's just you. Okay, it's like with any other ability. Once you give it some attention, you pay attention to it, you notice it, it develops more. The connection with the higher self does strengthen when you start realizing when it is the higher self and paying attention to it. I'll give you another example. I noticed that yesterday, late afternoon into the evening, there were a couple of times when the thought kept coming to me that you should put your garbage cans out now. And I brushed it off the first time. I said, no, I really don't like to put my garbage cans out in the evening. I really prefer to do it first thing in the morning. Because we have stray cats and stuff in the neighborhood. And I don't know, I've just gotten to that habit that I don't like to put them out the night before, because if there's cats, possums, anything like that around, they could try to knock the can over to try to get at the stuff in the can, and then I'd have to clean it up. So that's the reason why I prefer to put my garbage out in the morning, because I've seen many of my neighbors, having a big mess in the morning because of hungry stray cats or, possums. And then, so I brushed it off. And I was like, no, I really like to put my garbage cans out in the morning. About an hour later, I was coming in from dropping my son off at a friend's house. And again, this thought pops in my mind, you should put your garbage cans out. And I brushed it off again. No, I really like to put them out in the morning. Well, I did that. I did what I always do. And I put them out at the time I always do, but guess what? The garbage man was early this morning, so I missed the garbage man. So after I missed the garbage man, of course, I was just like, I've got this smile on my face, and I was like, yeah, I know. I missed that one. That was, it was obvious to me. I was just like, I should have known. And I kind of did know, but sometimes it's easy to ignore your higher self talking to you, because the way it manifests is just like thoughts coming to you, and we're used to thoughts coming to us. So this isn't something that's very obvious. There's not going to be a special way it sounds that makes it obvious it's your higher self. You really do have to get used to being able to know when it's not your own brain, when it's not you, when it's actually your higher self trying to give you a heads up about something. My higher self was like trying to tell me, you're going to miss the garbage in the morning. You should put it out now. Okay, now that is what my higher self was trying to tell me, but notice I said that how it came to me was just the thought of, you should put your garbage out now. Now, if this was just my higher self just speaking to me like I speak, my higher self would be like, you're going to miss the garbage in the morning. You should put it out now, because if you don't, I'm letting you know, psychic reading wise, think about it. I'm letting you know that tomorrow, what the potential is that you're going to miss the garbage. So if I would have listened, of course I wouldn't have missed the garbage, but I missed it. And then I thought, you know what? My higher self tried to warn me. My higher self tried to give me that heads up, and I didn't listen, because it's always your choice whether you listen or not. That's the thing. You have free will. That's your choice whether you're going to listen. But you always have your higher self trying to help you out, trying to tell you things. But you have to do that difficult job, which is listening, paying attention, and actually stopping and take the time to say, that thought that just came to me. Yeah, it just kind of came out of the blue. Do I think that was my higher self? Now, in the beginning, it's a little bit easier to develop this by assuming it's always your higher self. It's easier to get used to this and to strengthen the connection with your higher self by saying in the beginning that, okay, whenever thoughts pop into my head, I'm going to assume that chances are that's my higher self talking to me. This kind of gets you more used to listening for your higher self, listening to your higher self. If you go ahead and do that, okay, sometimes it's not going to be your higher self, but this is just a way for you to get used to and in the habit of catching it when it is your higher self. Like I said, it's so subtle. That is the word I would use. It is subtle. Communication with the higher self, things that you do with the higher self, very, very subtle. Now, of course, you could set something up. If you have clairsentience and you can feel energy, you could always practice setting something up, like saying, okay, higher self, whenever you pop a thought in my head and you're trying to communicate with me, I want to feel energy on the back of my neck, so that I always know when it's you talking to me. So you can always do something like that. It is a good idea to always to tell the higher self what you want. Don't just wait for it to happen, hope it happens, assume it's gonna happen. No. You need to establish with the higher self how you want the higher self to be working to help you. Tell your higher self, whenever this is going on, I always want you to give me a heads up. I mean, I could even say, higher self, I always want to know when anywhere in the world an earthquake is getting ready to happen. I'm letting the higher self know I want to get alerted to that. Or I could always say, which I used to do, higher self, it's really important that I'm never late to pick up my son at the bus stop or to pick him up from school. So if I take a nap in the afternoons, I need you to do whatever you have to do to wake me up to ensure I do not oversleep. And actually it works. I've established more or less an internal alarm clock. I can't really remember the last time I overslept. Yeah, I can still oversleep, but most of the time, I'll wake up before the alarm clock goes off. Just something will wake me up. My higher self will somehow wake me up. I've also had instances where I've had the screaming in my head. I know that sounds really funny, but this happened actually to me a couple of times where I'd fallen asleep on the sofa taking a nap, and just all of a sudden I'm asleep. And there's this yelling in my head, screaming really loud, wake up! And I remember the first time it happened to me, I nearly fell off the sofa. It was so startling, so loud, so unexpected. But of course I laughed. Even though it scared the crap out of me, I kind of laughed because I'm thinking, wow, what there is the ability and potential for us to use. We've got awesome, great help. If we can get it going for ourselves, if we can give permission for it to happen. Many of the things I have going on and the help that I have from my higher self, the angels, the ascended masters, is because I have allowed it. I'll even, sometimes I'll ask for help with specific things and often give permission for that help to come. Maybe I'm getting, when I was doing the radio show, I'm getting ready to go on the air, and maybe, I'll say a little prayer or something where I'm not only saying the prayer, but I'm also asking for the angels and ascended masters, whoever would like to, step forward and help out during that time and merge kind of with me, send that energy through me for what the angels or ascended masters would like communicated. I'm giving permission. I'm not only asking for that help, but I'm giving permission for them to step in and do that and help in that way. So don't forget, you want to let your higher self know what it is you want, what it is you need. Do you always need a heads up? when certain things are going to happen or when somebody's going to be visiting. Often how that manifests is the person will come to mind, or just all of a sudden a thought like calling them. The thought of calling them, picking up the phone and calling them will come to mind. And a lot of times that's your higher self trying to either tell you you're going to be seeing them that day or they're going to be calling you. Sometimes it also happens so many times to me where I have a friend, this always happens to us. It seems like every time I call her, she answers the phone laughing because she's like, oh my goodness. She's like, I don't know how you keep doing that. But she says it seems to never fail. Every time in the morning I'm thinking about you and I think I should call Sherry. The phone rings and you call me. She goes, how did you know that I was just thinking of you and I was just thinking of calling you? You know, also I've had, you know, there are people that, you know, that I know, like the guy that I met at 7-Eleven who calls himself Preacher. Really, really nice guy. He's very religious, very involved in church, and he is just this overly bubbling, upbeat person that is always greeting people, always like, oh, it's so good to see you this morning. Praise God that I got to see you. You know, and he's so nice. And over the last, I don't know, couple of years from seeing him when I go to 7-Eleven sometimes, we've gotten to know each other and become friends, and we exchange numbers, and sometimes we text each other. So sometimes just out of the blue, the thought will come to me to text him, or sometimes to text him and say something specific, and I'll do that, and he'll text me back, and I'll be like, you know, it's funny, you texted me, and I was just thinking about you. Or the last time I saw him, I had gone to the grocery store in the morning before my son goes to school. And I come out of the grocery store. I need to get a few things to make his lunch. And I'm coming out of the store. I get in my car. And before I get in my car, I think I hear somebody yell. I swear I hear somebody yell something. And I go ahead and I get in my car. And before I close the door, here he comes riding over on his bicycle. You should see the look on his face. He was so happy. You know, and this is the thing that humbles you. He was so happy and excited to see me. And then he tells me, he goes, you know, on my way to work, I never ride my bike through, you know, the grocery store shopping mall. He goes, but this morning, something just told me to go that way and to stop at the ATM outside of the grocery store and check my balance. He goes, but I never ride my bike this way. He goes, but something told me to come this way. He goes, and then I see you. He goes, and now I know. He goes, now I know why I was told to come this way. And, you know, it's things like that that happen. That's his higher self communicating with him. And these things, when they happen, they're very humbling. So as you get more and more used to not only communicating and listening to your own higher self, but also can see it and spot it when it's other people's higher self. And it's not only the higher self, but the higher self orchestrating these things to happen. It's a very humbling experience. It's very touching. It's very humbling. Sometimes there are people that we see that I hate to say this in a negative way, but there are people in everybody's life that maybe they would define or call annoying. You know, like that neighbor that you see in there, you're like, oh, here they come again. You know, and sometimes you may think that way, you may feel that way. Yeah, you may like them, but that may be the thought in your mind. But I'll tell you, what will have you stop thinking that way is these instances that happen where people explain to you that, oh, I never come this way. I never go, and here I see you. And I'm so excited. This has just made my day. and it's very humbling, and it will get you to stop thinking, oh, here comes so and so, oh, I just don't feel like it this morning, I'm not in the mood for this. It will get you to stop feeling that way and thinking that way, because you have those experiences and they bring you back down to earth. They humble you, and they put you in this place where you kind of feel like, you know what, I'm so lucky and so fortunate. I should feel fortunate that someone wants to see me, that somebody wants to talk to me, that someone even thinks of me. I should feel fortunate that they even think about me. So it's a very humbling experience. Merging more and more with the higher self and communicating and just living your life, not only listening to the higher self, but as you merge more and more with the higher self, the whole point of doing that is so that eventually you're living life more as your higher self and less as your lesser self. That is the whole point of merging with the higher self. It is not so that we can become spiritual teachers. That's not the point of the higher self. It's not so that we can become spiritual teachers or to be to help people in a healing way or spiritually. That's not the point of it. The point of merging with the higher self is so that you can get to the point where you're finally living life more as your higher self than your lesser self. Once you're living life more as your higher self, then you are living life as you're supposed to. Like some people, their goal is to always be working on living life based on like the 10 Commandments as far as what they're trying to do and not to do. So I guess I'm saying something similar. Finally living your life as fully as the higher self as you can. That's when you've gotten to that point where you're living life and what you're doing and how you're acting and how you're behaving is as the universe would want you to, as God would want you to, and you are rewarded for that. The more you can do that, the better your life becomes. That's the benefits of being able to live life as your higher self, is that you will have more and more good things happening and less bad things happening, although I said it that way, but don't get hung up on the words that I use, good versus bad, because there really is no such thing as good versus bad. It's a perspective. I may have a perspective that something is bad, but it's for a reason. I'm still learning from it. It may be because it was a lesson I was supposed to learn, and I get that by way of experiences. So ignore when I say good versus bad. I'm saying that just so you can understand like what I'm getting at, what I'm talking about. But I don't mean it in a more literal way. I don't mean that literally, like there are some things good versus bad, because there aren't. Everything is for a reason, even if we don't know what the reason is. Not all experiences are pleasant, but that doesn't mean they're bad. Because if an experience has helped you learn something and helped you spiritually grow, then how could it be bad? It's not. The experience itself may not have been pleasant, may have been something tough to go through, but it's just like in school. Maybe you go to math class and there are going to be certain things you learn in math that are easier to learn than other things. You may struggle and just hate yourself through, working with fractions, but then you get to other things, in math that you're learning and where you actually enjoy it. It's more pleasant. But fractions aren't bad, right? It's just another form of math, and you had to struggle through it because you had to learn it. So it's not bad. It's just that it wasn't out of math. Maybe for you, fractions aren't the most pleasant things. Other people love fractions and they're good at them. My son is really good with fractions. Often when I'm helping him with his homework and it involves fractions, he first has to give me a lesson on fractions so that I am up to speed enough to be able to even help him. So there are some people who are like that. They're good at fractions. They just get it. So it's not a bad experience for them. So, and sorry to get off topic here, but I just wanted to kind of throw that in there. There is no such thing as just good versus bad. It's just a label. It's just a perspective. Now, what I would suggest, if you would like to work on communicating with the higher self more, like actually being able to listen to the higher self more and get help from the higher self, what I would recommend is stopping and taking the time whenever thoughts come to you and just simply asking the question, okay, where did that come from? And this is what I always used to do. Take the time to stop and go, okay, this thought just came in my head. Now, wait, where did that come from? Do I think that was me, my own mind, something that's coming from my ego? Or do I think that was something coming from my higher self? And I can give you an example. Let's say that something happened a couple days ago, something that was upsetting. Maybe you got into an argument with somebody you know, and they said some things, and it really hurt you, it really bothered you. And now a couple of days later today, they come to your mind. And so you may think, the question may be, is that my higher self trying to tell me something? Am I picking up something that's going on with that person? Am I still, do I have this energetic connection to that person still, and I'm picking up they're going through something or something's going on, and I'm picking up on that? Or, is this my higher self? If this is my higher self talking, or is this me? Because I'm still upset about this and I haven't gotten over it. I haven't let go of this yet. Now, sometimes it is that we haven't let go of something yet, and you have to be able to recognize when that's what you've got going on. When you're just temporarily stuck on something and you're having a little bit of a hard time getting past it, letting go and moving on from it. Sometimes things that are a bad experience from us, sometimes we do have a little bit of a hard time letting go and moving on. But is it that? Is it that someone's coming to mind because you haven't let go of whatever happened yet? Or is it your higher self trying to tell you something? So you got to stop and ask the question. Okay, I'll give you another example. It's just like yesterday. Of course, I used that example with the garbage cans. Stop and ask yourself, is that just me? Did that just thought come to mind because I see other people who have set their garbage can out and that's what led to that thought coming to me? Or is it my higher self actually trying to give me a heads up and tell me something? Let's say, for example, a friend that you haven't thought of or talked to in a little while comes to mind. Stop and ask yourself, okay, was that just me thinking about them? Was that just, me? Or is that my higher self trying to let me know that I'm going to hear from them? Or for you healers, is it my higher self trying to tell me, why don't you give them a call? Maybe they're going through something right now. And I'm not saying that to say that you should, pick up the phone and give them a call and do the, hey, is everything okay with you? I have to admit, and if any of my friends are listening to this, please do not get mad at me. Do not get offended. Because some of you do this to me. Some of you call me up. I mean, it's actually common. This happens. And Kier, no, I'm not talking about you. Because Kier sometimes will ask me, my friend Kier will sometimes ask me, hey, were you doing this? Or were you thinking about this, just recently? No, I'm not talking about that. Because when he does that to me, he is trying to do what I'm telling you to do, trying to get better at recognizing when you're actually getting something that is metaphysical, where your higher self is trying to communicate something to you, where you're getting something that's real, or whether it was not. He's trying to validate it, basically. He's trying to validate what he got. And the one way he can validate what he got is to actually ask me, hey, were you doing something like this just now? Or were you thinking something about it? And often, yes, most of the time, I can validate it for him. Okay, but what I'm really talking about right now is those friends who call you up and you answer the phone and they're just like, are you okay? Is everything all right? I just got a really just bad feeling that things weren't okay. And I'll admit, I'll be honest with you, and I'll admit some of the friends that do that to me, I'm just like, I don't know, I guess I just kind of feel like saying, you know what, I gotta tell you, you don't really have well-developed abilities. You think you do, but you don't. And they try to make, and this is what's really weird, they try to make my life bad so it fits what they're getting. It's almost like they have already convinced themselves, they've already are in the state of believing there's got to be something going on with Sherry. Something must be wrong, because they'd prefer that to be true than for it to be true that what they got wasn't right, or that they misinterpreted what they were getting. So, there are some people, when you know and communicate with a lot of people that have abilities or are very intuitive, it's not unusual for that to happen often, where you have people calling you up going, hey, something going on? Is something happening? I just got a feeling that something's, was happening bad with you. And the funny thing is, usually that is never the case with me. I mean, I pretty much have gotten to the point where I live my life. Things come up, I deal with them. And nothing is a huge deal. It's just life, it's just life. But, I don't have that life right now where it's just like that clear cut, oh, it's good versus bad. Oh, I got this going on, I'm so upset about it. No. So that may happen where you're trying to figure out what you're getting, but what I'm saying is, be careful. Don't call people up and go, hey, I just got a really bad feeling something bad was going on with you. No, just simply pick up the phone, call them, chat. If that was what you were supposed to do, if it was being orchestrated for you to call them, to be there, to be of help to them, all you need to do that is to be present, meaning you don't need to do the whole, hey, is everything okay with you because I got a really bad feeling something was going on with you. No, don't do that. It does kind of put the other person on the spot too. So just call, just chat, just like normal. If they've got something going on and they need to talk to you about it, and that was what was supposed to happen, I guarantee you that's what will happen. So just trust that if you are in the right place at the right time, you will be used. If that is what's needed for you to be used to help someone, you will be used. You don't have to push to orchestrate that. If the angels or ascended masters want you to be, present and be of help to someone, that'll happen. You don't really need to push. Just all you have to do, be in the right place, right time, and you will be used in that way. But so that's what I want you to do, is every time something comes to mind, at least ask the question, was that my higher self? Where did that come from? Was that my higher self? Was that my own mind, my ego? Did that come simply because I saw this? Did the thought come to me because I'm still having trouble getting over something that happened? Was it very out of the blue? Did it just suddenly pop in my head? Was I already thinking about it? Or was it something that like literally had so nothing to do with what I was thinking about? It was something so left field that popped into my head where I know that's my higher self. So that's all I want you to do. It's that simple. Start paying attention. Start asking yourself, where did that come from? That's it. And do that for the next couple of weeks. And I assure you, you will get so much better, so much more advanced when it comes to listening to the higher self. And keep doing it. And also remember, don't forget, merging with the higher self, you really do need to be meditating. Just passive, no thoughts meditation. Before you meditate, just have the intention that you're meditating for the purpose of merging with your higher self, spending time with your higher self in meditation. You don't have to visualize anything. Actually, do a passive meditation where you're not going to think of anything. No thoughts, no visualizations, no nothing. Just passive meditation. You need to be doing that at least once a day to help you and the higher self merge. And believe me, if you do that, plus, asking yourself when thoughts come to you, being investigative, then believe me, you will merge with the higher self more and more and more, and it won't take you that long. Also, if you'd really like to work on it more in a more intense way, what you can do is pray, meditate, say decrees while thinking of the higher self. So now if you do all three of those things, of course it will take you less time to merge with the higher self. You'll find it even more effective for merging with the higher self and your higher self coming through stronger. Because that's the thing, it's very subtle when the higher self is communicating with you. However, it doesn't have to be so subtle that you're always missing it. It can be a little bit stronger and more pronounced. A greater strengthening of that merging with the higher self. So if you're doing all three, you'll notice you'll be allowing the higher self to come forward a little bit more stronger for you. You'll be allowing the higher self to more times when you're communicating with people for the higher self to be the one speaking up rather than some ego part of yourself. Thank you for listening. I hope that this video was helpful to you. Of course, if you have any questions about the higher self, feel free to comment and ask. If you would like coaching to work on either some issues you're trying to get over to clear out the way so that you can work on the higher self, work on these things coming out more, issues from your past. I mean, if you'd like to do some coaching, my coaching is only $10 per session, which is very affordable considering how much most coaching sessions usually cost. So it's very affordable. We can do whatever you'd like, once a week, once every 2 weeks, once a month, or whenever you would like. If you would like to just try one out one time, I mean, sure. I mean, coaching is only $10, so, give it a try and see how you like it, see how it helps you develop even faster, make changes in your life even faster. So just go to SherrySpeaks.com if you would like to I call it intuitive coaching because my higher self is very involved in this. So, what my coaching questions that I ask in coaching it's my higher self coming up with the questions. So it's very effective. Just go to SherrySpeaks.com, and you'll see on the menu, and you just click the intuitive coaching, or you could just simply email me if you'd like to ask about doing that. I look forward to hearing from you. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day or evening. I really, really appreciate you. Namaste.